There are currently 3 teams in baseball right now that are head and shoulders above everybody else. The Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Mets, and the Houston Astros. And I think it's finally time we break down these 3 teams, their strengths and their deficiencies, and we look through them. Firstly, let's start out with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Los Angeles Dodgers, who have the best record in baseball at 80 wins already. You could look at a lot of things, but firstly, you have to look at the starting rotation because it is unbelievable how good that rotation's been, even without guys like Walker Buehler, Dustin May, Clayton Kershaw in it. Clayton Kershaw, who's one of the best pitchers of my generation, top 3, up there with Verlander, has been injured basically all year long. He's missed most of the year, and when he's been in, he's looked good. Then you look at Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler, one of my personal favorite pitchers in the league, he's out for the year with elbow surgery. And then finally, Dustin May, who's been out since the start of last year with elbow surgery as well. Yet the Dodgers keep finding these talented players and putting them in the rotation, and they dominate. Tony Gonsolin, Julio Urias, Tyler Anderson. So you have to give credit where it's due. This rotation's been very good for being undermanned. Not saying that they aren't talented, but when you're missing guys like Dustin May, Clayton Kershaw, and Walker Buehler, you expect some drop-off, and we haven't seen that drop-off yet. Then you jump over to their offense, their starting lineup. You see guys like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, and even Gavin Lux. These 4 guys have been phenomenal all year long. They've been the main catalyst behind the Dodgers winning 80 games so far this year, and continue to look great and continue to throttle the Dodgers past any opponent they face. And then you get to that bullpen, who ranks top 5 or top 10 in almost every statistical category that you can, even without having a closer that they can rely on. All these things have given the Dodgers the edge on just about every team in the NL. They've dominated their division, beating up on the Padres, the Rockies, and the Giants. And they took on some other really great teams and blanked them. But there are some concerns I have for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Firstly, with that starting rotation, are the Dodgers going to get back a Dustin May that's 1, healthy enough to pitch deep into games, and then 2, is going to give you quality starts? Secondly, Clayton Kershaw. As much as I love Clayton Kershaw and as much respect as I have for him, I'm questioning right now his ability to stay healthy throughout the rest of the season because he's shown that he cannot yet. Obviously, we know that Walker Buehler is going to be out for the rest of the year. And then I have my questions about the younger guys in that rotation. Julio Urias, he's been in the playoffs before, but Tony Gonsolin, Tyler Anderson, young guys, not a lot of playoff experience. I'm curious to see how they react in those big moments. That's what I want to see. Secondly, that starting lineup. If any one of those 4 guys go down due to injury or illness or even PED suspension, Fernando Tatis Jr., does the volatility of that offense change? Their ability to score runs in mass, does it change? Because they have some gaping holes in their lineup. Joey Gallo, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger. They have some sore eyes in that lineup when you look at it. And lastly, their bullpen. Their bullpen's been good. Their relief and their setup pitching has been very good. Craig Kimbrell was brought in to be the closer, and he has not been anywhere near what they were wanting from him. So my final question for them would be, in the playoffs, you have a 1-run game you're leading by, and it's the bottom 8, you send in your setup and your closer in back-to-back innings. Are they going to choke and give up those runs and you lose the game, or are they going to close it out? Now, secondly, we need to talk about the New York Mets, because oh my gosh, what a rotation that is. I said in the beginning of the season, Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom should not be allowed in the league. Some really bad things can happen to the opposing starting lineups. And I've been right so far since Jacob deGrom has been back. DeGrom and Scherzer and Bassett have been absolutely unbelievably good. Since DeGrom has returned 3 starts ago, those 3 guys have combined for a sub-3 ERA. Grom looks like the best pitcher in the entire universe, as he is. Scherzer, despite his age, has looked phenomenal this year with a sub-2 ERA. And Chris Bassett, well, he's been very good this year. Now, the back end of the rotation, I have a few questions on, but we'll get to that. Let's look at that starting lineup for the New York Mets. The New York Mets, with one of the best shortstops in the league, and Francisco Lindor, topped off with one of the best first basemen in the league, Pete Alonso. And then you add a guy who's been an all-star for them so far this year in Starling Marte, and Jeff McNeil, who's been a very solid infielder for them. This has culminated in the Mets winning 75 games this year so far. And then you get to that bullpen with the gravedigger himself, Edwin Diaz, coming to close out games. Edwin Diaz has just propelled himself to the best closer in the league, and it's not even close. He's on pace right now to break the K per 9 mark, which was set by Aroldis Chapman back in 2014. Diaz is striking out almost 18 guys per 9, which is absolutely unbelievable. But for the Mets, here are where my questions start to come in. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Chris Bassett. A very good 3 combo right there. But on the back end of that rotation, who's going to be your 4th in the playoffs? Carrasco? Perhaps? Here's my question for the lineup. If Pete Alonso or Francisco Lindor start to regress or get injured or suspended, who's going to fill their spot in for those runs lost per game. Because as good as the lineup is, they're not as deep as maybe you'd think. And then finally, the New York Mets bullpen. They have good setup and good relief pitching. But sometimes good is not good enough. Ask the Houston Astros in 2019. They'll tell you. So my curiosity strikes me. Are the Mets going to mow everybody down because of DeGrom and Scherzer in the playoffs? Or are they going to run into a brick wall at some point due to their lineup being inefficient at times or their bullpen choking away? Because I've been saying this all year long. DeGrom and Scherzer are going to mow through basically every single lineup in the NL in the playoffs. That's how good they are. So finally, let's jump to it. My team and the best team in the AL and the most complete team in baseball, in my opinion, the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros, who have not only the best starting rotation in baseball, but the deepest starting rotation in baseball. Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez, Lance McCullers, Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, and Jose Urquidy. All 6 of these guys have combined to become the best starting rotation in all of baseball and the deepest, like I said. And then you jump over to their offense. They have one of the best right fielders in the league when it comes to fielding and batting in Kyle Tucker. They have the best designated hitter on the planet and one of the best hitters on the planet in Yordan Alvarez. They have the best second baseman in the league right now in Jose Altuve. They have a rising star in Jeremy Pena at the moment playing shortstop. And they have good old Alex Bregman over the remaining third base. And with the additions of Christian Vasquez and Trey Mancini, they filled in a lot of holes that the roster had in their lineup before the trade deadline. And then you move over to the bullpen, who have been statistically the best bullpen in baseball. And they're definitely one of the deepest in baseball. Ryan Presley, Ryan Stanek, Rafael Montero, Hector Neris, Phil Maton, Brian Abreu. Other than a few games here recently, they've shown all year long that they're a lockdown, shutout bullpen. And taking that into the playoffs, that's a very dangerous thing for other teams. Now, here are all the questions that I have for the Houston Astros. I don't really have many about the starting rotation because I know how good they are. Is Yuli Gurriel going to hit in the 2 spot during the playoffs in front of Yordan Alvarez? Because if so, it might translate into some disaster for the top part of that lineup. Is Martin Maldonado going to start a majority of the games in the playoffs? Because if so, the catcher spot is really going to weigh down that offensive lineup. And in center field for the Astros, who's going to play center field? I honestly want to know because it doesn't really seem like there's a very reliable option on that roster right now. And then you talk about the bullpen. There's not a lot to say about the bullpen. They've been pretty good so far this year, but a few guys of lately have been shaky in that bullpen. Rafael Montero and Phil Maton. If they continue to struggle throughout the next few months, there may be some cause for concern, because they haven't looked very good in the past 3 to 4 games that they've played in, especially Rafael Montero. But I usually call the Astros the most complete team in baseball because they don't have a lot of holes in their roster. Most of their holes were filled in during the trade deadline, but there still are a few holes that you can point out, mainly in left field and in center field. But anyways, guys, I would love to know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Do y'all think that the Astros, the Mets, or the Dodgers are the best team in baseball right now? And if you do think so, why? If you haven't already, go and like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because I have plenty more baseball content like this, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Adios, mi amigos.
Hey, thank you for rocking out tonight. You could be anywhere in the world. You right here. I got my special guest, Tyler Lee, man.
Yeah, you bringing this all from the Keystone State?
Chilling in the Empire State. So we run that entire state.